I just paid my bill with Sarawak Pay. How convenient. Now the theme of this year's budget is United in Building a Resilient, Inclusive and Progressive Society. And today we're going to be talking about digital economy. Now COVID-19 brought with it, among others, the digital wave. And here in Sarawak, we're a bit lucky because we went on the digital economy initiatives way before the pandemic. Join me, Mona Abdul Manap, as we discuss this and others on the special season of Econ Roundtable discussing the Sarawak State Budget exclusively. See you then.
The digital economy is good because it can help, because we are a newly established business, so it can help us promote our business more to the wider audience.
This initiative could bridging the gap between rural and urban communities. For example, these urban communities could get their income as an content creator, as they could market their jungle produce or even market their handcrafts products.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's Econ Roundtable episode on digital economy. And we'll be talking about what is exactly digital economy and what does it mean for people like us, everyday people like us. And today, here with me, we have two gentlemen who are in the forefront of the digital transformation for Sarawak. We have here Professor Jagdat Singh, or Prof. Jack. He is the State Chief Scientist and Chief Advisor for Digital Economy. Welcome to the show, Prof.
Thank you.
And we've got Mr. Sudanoto Ben Osman, CEO of the Sarawak Digital Economy Corporation Berhad, or SDEC. Welcome to the show, Mr. Sudanoto.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us today, both of you. And right, so the first one, I'm just going to go away with all the jargons of digitalization, IoT, blockchain. Those are all very technology stuff. Let's simplify it and like Prof, can you simplify this whole digital economy thing and what does it mean? And I'd like to touch on our rural communities here in Sarawak. What does it mean for them? What's in it for them in this whole digital economy talk?
Thank you. Let me first define what digital economy is. The way I look at digital economy is a global marketplace that is designed, enabled and facilitated using information and communication technology, what we call IT or ICT, together with digital technologies like IoT, like AI, like 5G, like blockchain and data. So if you look at digital economy, it was a journey. It started with hardware, mostly computers, designing microchips, telecommunication. That was the first phase. And after that, what happened, people used that particular platform to design platform economy, like Google's came up, like Amazon came in, like Alibaba came in. That was the second phase. And the third phase was basically digitization of the economy, like shared economy, like Ubers and Grab. Right. Or you look at precision agriculture. Or we look at Industry 4.0 or gig economy. That was the third phase. Yeah. But now the phase that we are in is mostly the enabling technologies like artificial intelligence, like blockchain, like IoT, like 5G. And they are providing the multiplying factor. They are amplifying the value of digital economy. And if you look at the value of digital economy, in 2016 it was about $11 trillion. And it is expected by 2025 it will be about $23 to $25 trillion, and that will be about 25% contribution to the global GDP. Wow. And the contribution is going to be by ICT and also from these enabling technologies. What is there for the community, for the society? The way we look at digital economy globally and also in Sarawak is that we're looking at whole of society approach, whole of society transformation, not only industry, not only government, but whole of society. And what will it do? It will create jobs for the community in the rural and the urban areas as well. It will create well-being. People will be able to live better. The household income will grow up. So there are a number of values of this particular technology, and it's the main enabler for our transformation.
All right. That's a good way of putting it. And you've got experiences all over the world with digital economy. And I'd like to touch on Tasmania, and that's something that we worked on. I know that the economy is somewhat similar to Sarawak, I would say. Tell us a bit about that, maybe just briefly.
Yes, I did work in Tasmania, and that was one area we looked into transformation of the economy there as well, which was initially very much based on the resources, especially timber industry. And there we looked into digitizing the economy and making sure that the value from the data was created and maximizing that value. So we looked at agriculture as a whole because there are a lot of rural communities as well. We looked at smart farming and aquaculture, especially in the salmon industry, in the oyster industry, and those are some of the industries that is feeding the world now, like salmon and oysters. And also we looked into tourism because Tasmania is an island state in Australia, and challenge was how do you attract tourists up there. So there were a lot of what we call virtual reality type of approach we took.
That's interesting.
So that we could expose the world what Tasmania is. They could see it, and then that will attract them into it.
And that sounds a lot like Sarawak right now, what we're doing, and that's why you're here. And
that's
you're
one of the
helping us and do that, right? Now, when we talk about rural communities, I think, and this is mentioned in the budget as well, the MySRBN, or the Sarawak Rural Broadband Network. I know you've spoken a lot about this, and we've got about 150 of these ongoing already or completed. Tell us a bit more about that. What's the latest news on this MySRBN?
I mean, let me touch a bit what MySRBN is all about. MySRBN come about when in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, when people and in rural people are deprived from access to the world. Right? I mean, because when you are stuck at home, you can't do much without internet. So the gap between the urban and rural become more apparent because of this. So the government decided that the fast way of trying to resolve this issue was to introduce the MySRBN. So MySRBN is a technology that based on fixed wireless access, maximizing existing infrastructure as much as we can, and to provide unlimited internet to the people in the rural areas. I mean, we in the urban areas, we take for granted for this access to the internet. Because why? Because when we are outside, we use our mobile network. But when we go home, we have a fiber network that provides unlimited access. But that's not the case when it comes to the rural people. In rural areas, people have limited access to internet. When I say limited access to the internet, because they depend so much on the mobile for the internet access. So what happens is that when you have a mobile as your internet access, is that you have a quota, right? So once you exceed that quota, you have to add on to it. So the rural people, in actual fact, is paying more for the internet than compared to the urban people. So is that create justice to the rural people? No. So that is where MySRBN come to picture. So by providing unlimited access to the internet, which is currently free, the government is giving access to the rural people until to a certain time period where the government will decide that it will be charged. But if it's charged, it's still going to be lower than any service provider or any service packages that's available in the market.
What they're currently paying right
Correct.
now. And
So,
I think the pandemic has shown how this is really important, especially for education as well, for the rural economies.
Correct.
And I think that's great stuff. We're going to go on a short break.
So bagi kami Sarawak Pay tu memang senang lah sebab kita tu jarang nampak kes jalan. So mun Sarawak Pay tu bagi kita orang Sarawak memang nak senang. Sini je kita pergi memang ada Sarawak Pay.
Kelebihan Sarawak Pay ni dia ada cashback, which is bila kita bayar sesuatu amount tu kita akan dapat pulangan juga beberapa persen kepada kita.
Welcome back to the Econ Roundtable episode on digital economy. And we're here today discussing this, and before this we talked about rural communities. Now I'd like to touch a bit on private sector partnership in this, and we've talked about what the government is doing, but what can the private sector do to come in play in this. Prof, perhaps you could talk a bit about that.
Okay. You know, if you look at sustainability of economy, normally what happens, a lot of governments, they look at the public sector economy only. But to make sure it is sustainable, we have to look at the growth of private sector as well. So the economy in most of the developed countries, you'll find that is driven by both public and private sector. And one of the things that we have to do is to make sure that we encourage a very vibrant tech sector or private sector into the state to make sure that our economy is sustainable. And to do that, we have to make sure that we have right investment policies, ease of doing business, the right incentives are in place so that these large multinationals can come and invest in this place. And the other thing that these multinationals will look for is have you got the talent to feed them? What is our R&D infrastructure? Are we, because technology is changing so fast, we have to provide them with the intelligence, the R&D, the innovation environments. So all those things they look for, and also the livability. I think you ask the companies to come in here, and if the place is not livable, then you'll find it very difficult for them to invest. Right. So livability is also very important, and Sarawak has a fantastic environment, fantastic place to come and stay and live for the people. So all that, it's a very green environment and very clean environment.
Yeah.
So those things are very important.
And you talked about talent development, and I think this is where, and it's also mentioned in the budget about the Sarawak Center of Excellence for Digital Economy. You've got also the Digital Academy, and those are two separate things. Maybe you want to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I think on the talent development, that's where Digital Academy will focus on. But I think at the moment, Digital Academy works with multinational companies as well to bring in state-of-the-art technology that can be so that our people can be trained to be able to manage the future technologies that is going to be introduced to when we digitalize the economy. And the other thing that we are looking at is the Center of Excellence. The Center of Excellence, we have test beds, living labs, and the open labs, right?
Yep.
So under the test beds, it can be, it doesn't have to be at Center of Excellence itself. It can be anywhere. So this is where we will test out the technology, the future technology that can be used.
All right.
I always look at Center of Excellence is that it has to be one step or two steps ahead of what we are doing at the moment. Mm-hmm. If we are doing what we are doing at the moment, then that beats the purpose of having a Center of Excellence. So in the key labs, this is where we work with the university partners. This is where the researchers are situated. I mean, we are working with them, maximizing their expertise, and to do engage in a lot of research and innovation. So this is where we are working on. And then in Open Lab, we will bring in the tech startups, also working with the multinational companies, and see what kind of technology we can build based on the problem statements that being highlighted by the private sectors.
Okay. And if an SME, for example, we want to develop an app or a software, do we just go over to the COE, or how do we go about using these facilities?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they can do is basically if they have problem statements with regards to how they're going to digitalize their operation, for example, they can come over to the COEs and meet the experts that is available in the COEs. There they can catch up and meet up with them and share the issues that they are facing. From there, the researchers can come up with what we call solutions to what they are facing at the moment and do what we can do to assist them in digitalizing some of their processes.
Right.
I think we are working on this in certain economic sectors like aquaculture. This is the same thing. They have their problems. How they're going to sort out the size, the fish, and this is where we come in and do using AI to identify the size of the fish, and then this is where the sorting can be much easier.
Right.
So there are more and more use cases that we have done so far with regards to the Center of Excellence.
Right, and this is different from the digital academy, I would say. What's the difference there, COE and Digital Academy?
If I could add here, I think the important thing is the model. Remember, we're looking at talent, skill, and cutting edge skill and talent, because digital is moving very fast.
Yep.
So if you start looking at those sort of technologies like AI, like blockchain, then the infrastructure requirements are very expensive. And I think no government can afford to have multiple sets up. So the model we created was to bring in the industry partners, the tech giants like Microsoft, like IBMs, working with the leading universities in the world, together with the universities in Sarawak, and the government. So it's a three-way partnership, and that way we are able to get the cutting-edge infrastructure,
Yep.
top-end researchers, and working together and solving real problems that is faced by the community or faced by in digital transformation. And when it comes to training, we form the same model, because thing is that we want to train people who are job ready, rather than training them and then they have to go and retrain themselves.
Yep.
So that's why it becomes very important to have the industry partners working with us, and our training, our cadets are basically, or candidates are using the real tools and platforms that is used by the industry. So there is no retraining required after that. So imagine the dollars that the companies will be saving in retraining. So
Right.
that is done through our digital academy, which is an industry-based center. And we have got a number of labs in there. One of the major partners is Huawei, that is in the telecommunication area.
Yeah.
We got Econ Reality, one of the leading AR, VR virtual reality player from
Right.
US that is partnering with us.
Wow.
We got Microsoft joining us slowly and others coming in as well.
Yep.
So this is a very unique model, and I would say this is one of the first models in Malaysia.
Right.
So I think Sarawak government has done very well.
That's fantastic. We'll go on a short break. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Econ Roundtable episode on digital economy. And when we talk about digital economy, cybersecurity is a big thing. How are we addressing our security when we're going into digital economy here?
Okay, I mean, very important question. And we can do a lot in transforming our economies. But if you're not careful, then we lose a lot. And why cybersecurity? Because there's another business called cybercrime. And cybercrime this year, now it is about $6.5 trillion industry. Wow. It's bigger than the economy's number of countries. And that is the challenge, that how do you save that sort of loss that we are getting. So cybersecurity is a global issue, and normally national governments set up the cybersecurity framework, and Malaysian government has also set up a cybersecurity framework which was done in 2020. And the challenge now, or the next step, is how do you operationalize that? That's what we are trying to do in Sarawak. This framework is there, so we're trying to operationalize that. And the important bit there is the governance and the management, the policies that are required, the regulations, the compliance issues. So those are the important areas, but at the same time we have to make sure that our talent pool is there, people are there, so we have to look at the capabilities, the skill set, the capacity, the R&D, the innovation, and the global partnership models. So those things have to be addressed in cybersecurity so that we can make sure that our data or our information is safe, secure, and resilient.
Yeah, and cybersecurity is a global thing. It's not just about internally, and you have problems from external coming in. Now, just to sort of wrap up the whole picture on digital economy, the post-COVID development strategy talks a lot about digital economy and a lot of the other enablers in there. Now, make us understand, why is digital economy so important towards the transformation of Sarawak's economy, and why is our Chief Minister going so hard on this?
Yeah, I think if we were to continue doing what we're doing at the moment, I think we will not be able to achieve what we are putting ourselves, the target of PCDS 2030, where we are looking at the growth of our GDP is about 8%. And of course, we are trying to increase the household income to 15,000 ringgit, and also the job creations that we are talking about. So if we were to do what we are doing at the moment, this is going to be a difficult thing to achieve. So that's the reason why digital innovation is one of the ways that we can actually accelerate the economic growth through innovations. We can we can increase productivity and work efficiencies. These are the things that we are looking at. Why digital innovation becomes so very critical in this PCDS, because the target we are giving ourselves is very, very high. Because at the moment we are already maximizing whatever natural resources that we have. But then, how are we going to do to maximize it further, if not through innovations?
Right. So it's also important for the economy and also for the environment. for us to go digital, for us to actually rely less on our natural resources and more on digital economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One way of looking at it is how to maximize the natural resources. That's what we have done before.
Right.
And using digital initiative and innovations to make things better in terms of climate control, in terms of environmental control and etc.
Yeah.
So these are the things that you can do with digital.
Right.
Yeah.
And we could also use our digital, the technologies for us to actually conserve our forest, our environment.
Correct.
And you mentioned about how being a developed nation, a developed state, we should actually go more into the private sector instead of all being public driven, right? And that's how the digital economy comes into play. Is that how it works?
I think the way I look at digital in PCDS, which is our 2030 economic development agenda, data and innovation or digital economy is a key driver. Our economy is going to be based on that. And there are certain things we have to look into. One is, as you said, the partnership. We have to grow our partnership models, investments and all that. And we have to see how do you maximize the value of digitization. And that's where innovation comes into play. It's a very important area that we have to create a new industry, new vibrant startups. And we are hoping that we'll create about 500 or so new startups and few unicorns out of that. The other thing we have to look into how do you make sure that we are able to improve doing business with the private sector, that is ease of doing business. Yeah. So government services, we are hoping that through digitization, we'll be able to be more efficient providing service to the private sector. So that way the environment will be right through digitization to be able to excel or accelerate our process.
And I think the civil service, I think one of the thrusts in the budget is also that, to actually improve the civil service.
Yes,
and what's in plan for that for next year? Any digitalization or a major initiative for the government perhaps, or the civil service? Any programs we have?
There are a number of initiatives that have been taken in that to address the ease of doing business and also providing reliable and secure service to the community. And mostly they are all digitization applications using technology, training our people, making sure they're digitally literate, making sure the policies are more aligned to digitization, the regulations are there. So there are a number of initiatives that are already in place, and the government is working very hard to make sure that we are able to sort of create an environment that is conducive for the private sector to come and invest. At the same time, it's easy for the society or the community to work with the government.
I think to answer to your question just now, I think it's more about some of the things that they can look forward is the, let's say for example, the procurement process. This is something that's going to move online, yeah. Scholarship, application scholarships, that's also going to move online. So these are the few things that the people can look forward to. Yeah,
and I think the procurement process, when you bring it online, it makes it more transparent.
Correct.
It makes it more open, and that's what I think people are looking forward to. Now, that's all the time we have today for the digital economy on Econ Roundtable. And thank you, Prof. Jack and Encik Sudanoto, for being with us today. Now, at one point, digital economy seemed like a very far-fetched thing for us to achieve, with basic necessities not being fulfilled. But in fact, we are a bit more forward-looking than that, and it is actually working in tandem with basic necessities. And this is the only way for us to achieve a developed state, according to the PCDS, in the year 2030. And so in the next Econ Roundtable episode, we'll discuss yet another item of the budget. So stay tuned with me, Mona Abdul Manap, as we cover all the other items in the budget on the same day, same time. See you then.